Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new podcast of Cluster Talks. Today, we are glad to have Julia with us. Hi, Julia. How are you doing?
Hi, great, Joseph. How about you?
Okay, doing great here. As we mentioned before, close to the summertime right now, right? Well, actually, we are in summertime, not in holidays yet, but we are in summertime. And yeah, it's many things happening in the cluster world, especially in the mobility industry and automotive industry, right? And Julia, maybe you want to start introducing yourself and the cluster you work with, and we can start on that.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, so my name is Giulia Maifrini. I work for NextMove, which is a French cluster organization. So my name is really French. That's because I'm Italian,
Yeah.
actually. But the international collaboration starts there. But yeah, so I work for a French cluster organization called NextMove, which is active on two French regions of Ile-de-France and Normandy, which are called let's say the Mobility Valley. The reason is that there's a huge concentration there of automotive players, both on academic and on industrial side, and that
Hmm.
a lot of the national R&D is focused on there. So we have the luck to exist now since 2006. So this year is
Mm-hmm.
our 20th anniversary.
20th anniversary.
Indeed. So it's a huge step, and we have with us around let's say 350 to 400 members, depending on how you count
Mm-hmm.
the member sites. And in France, we are considered as we have a label which is called the pôle de compétitivité. So
Mm-hmm.
it's let's say a national label for cluster organizations
Mm-hmm.
which allows us to be recognized from the national government, also to have clearly some targets, some
Mm-hmm.
actions that we are due to. And on my side, my role in the cluster team is that I'm head of European and international affairs. So I coordinate all the actions regarding the more let's say Europe sphere, so regarding
Mm-hmm.
the innovation side, funding side,
Mm-hmm.
and what we consider the more international one. So the fact of helping establishing links, collaboration also beyond Europe for our members.
Awesome, awesome. Just before we jump, because I mean, because we both are from automotive and mobility clusters, I think it's going to be not that easy to not focus on that because many things are happening on this topic right now. But just I want to mention, and I would like to ask you to explain a little bit, but because probably most of the people listening to this kind of podcast are cluster managers or project managers from clusters, so that's the main focus. Please explain what the pole de competitivité is because I love that concept. I try to explain it to my government here, both national and regional, and they understand it, but they don't find a way to replicate that. I love it how you do it in France. But for the people that doesn't know how it works, please make a brief introduction. How does it work,
Sure.
and why it's so important for you guys?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, the pôle de compétitivité, it's clearly a program and initiative which has lots of advantages for us French cluster organizations. So to make it very simply, what happened in this is that back in 2006, the French government realized that there were this concentration of actors throughout the territories, and these concentration of actors were first of all a huge potential, but this potential was not exploited, was not guided, because they didn't have the knowledge of each other's contributions, of each other's expertise, and they didn't know how to actually work together and to bring the let's say these concentration, the level up by working together. So what happened is that in 2006, the French government decided to launch this initiative called the
Hmm.
Competitivité, and they have created during some years clusters in basically all the economical sectors in France. So today we are at 53 pôles de compétitivité in France,
Hmm.
uh, and so we cover all the economical sectors.
Hmm.
Um, what happens pretty basically is that the government has some kind of, let's say, contract with each of us. So against a part of funding, we provide some support, some actions to the
Technical
government.
support, right? Hmm.
Exactly, technical support by supporting the members, by supporting our territories, so that we can indeed help the economy, help the development, the resilience of our sectors. And in recently, I think it was something like last year, there we have had some more details about the impacts of pôle de compétitivité,
Hmm.
because we have the luck to have an
Hmm.
association, sorry, on the national level, which gets all of us, all the 53 pool around the table. So we have the chance to have someone who also gathers all of us together and
Oh, that's very
provide.
interesting.
Yeah, indeed. It's the Association of the French Pôle de Compétitivité, and
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
also a huge asset because we have someone who also creates this intermediary level between us, the pole, and the government.
Hmm.
So typically, we know that today the 53 pole we represent more than 500,000 jobs,
Wow.
and that in general the members who are active in a cluster organization have 1.3 more jobs compared to a normal one.
Oh.
uh, so regarding the fundings, clearly we can have a clear impact, because in
Hmm.
general the startups have more than 25% of access to fundings. So this is just two infos that have been provided to the government last year to
Hmm.
explain the impact of pole de competitivité,
Hmm.
because clearly it's something that is that has a huge importance for us, but with the time being, the French government cannot assure to be present for a
Yeah.
long time still.
Yeah.
So now we are at the sixth, no, sorry, at the fifth phase of the pole de competitivité.
Hmm.
So each phase is of 4 years. So we get to the 20th years, and let's say that the government is passing the responsibility more to the regions,
Yeah.
sorry,
Hmm.
to get this collaboration among the
Yeah. And
pool and
support and everything.
indeed.
Mm-hmm.
On our side, clearly we are still, let's say, pushing and discussing directly with the government to explain why, for sure, the collaboration and the discussion with directly with our regions is essential, but it goes hand with hand with also the government level to have a more national coherence.
Mm. Yeah, I understand. I understand. That's very interesting. And let me ask you, do you mentioned before 53 pole de compétitivité, and how many clusters are in France? Do you have a rough number
Uh,
just to get an idea?
Yeah, there must be. I think, let's say, most of the cluster in France try to undergo this pool de competitivité label. So the cluster which stays, let's say, a cluster basically without the label are really not a lot. Honestly, I think it must be maybe a dozen or something like that, additionally to these 50. Clearly there are some clusters. In this case, the situation is slightly different, so it's understandable. Is that they have a really close collaboration with their own region. So there are clusters who are only based on a single region, and let's say that their strategy and their roadmap is 100% decided and discussed with their own region.
One
On our
division.
side,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
exactly. On our side, the situation is a little bit different. First of all, based on this national label, because we have
mm-hmm.
to answer to their requests, and second of all, because we are based on two regions which are um, pretty different and complementary at the same time. Because we have a territory like Normandy where we have a very industrial, let's say, ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a region like Ile-de-France who is much more academic, a much more startup ecosystem. So on our side, clearly it's great because we have a very complete ecosystem. It's very interesting to be able also to create links among these kind of categories. But
Mhm.
on the other side, for sure, we need to adapt also to the characteristics of each region, and that's why we try to uh, build our strategies and our roadmaps and to update them very regularly
Mhm.
based on the exchanges with the regions, but also directly with the exchanges with our members.
That's a challenge because as you mentioned, Julia, you are in more than one region, two regions, right? In your case, two regions.
Exactly.
This means that if your national government wants to you to interact more with the regions, it means you have two administrations to deal with two different maybe political colors and priorities. So it could be quite asymmetric, right? To work this way. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know if you already start this fifth phase that you mentioned before, and how do you want to manage that? Because in Spain, you get only two kinds of two types of geographical cluster. You get regional cluster or national cluster. We do not have this concept of two, three regions cluster. It does not exist here. I
Oh,
mean,
really? Okay.
no, no, no. It's only, I mean, you had, in my case, I'm from Catalonia, but you have also Aragon or Valencia or Madrid or País Vasco, wherever. But it's only one region. Or there are few clusters, not much, not many of them, but some clusters has national coverage, but they work in a different way. We can go deep on that if you want later. But we don't have this concept. But I like it. I like it a lot because in my case, I interact a lot with the other automotive clusters, of course, but not only from the regions close to me, but also national wide. We are eight clusters from the automotive and mobility industry, and we had a lot of partnerships among us, and actually even a friendship among the cluster managers. But I really like this concept that you have in France of regional clusters because from the let's I'm not only talking about from the sector point of view, but also in the day-to-day activities. You have a lot of extra costs if you go region by region. I mean, project management, communication, administration. There are plenty of things that we could do together. um, and I understand that national maybe could be too wide, but two, three regions, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know why it doesn't, why we are not working like that. And talking to other cluster managers, which is this podcast about, I realized that maybe it's because in your case the cluster concept was I'm not going to say introduced maybe, but especially supported national level. In our case it was it all started at regional level, and maybe that's the reason that why we are working
Yeah.
this way. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I love your
No, that's for
concept.
sure. That's for sure. Honestly, I will just make a little link with the studies that I've done because I've done this master in Strasbourg, which was on management of cluster organizations and regional networks. So
Hmm.
let's say that my reflection about the, let's say, the cluster organization model started back then, and
Okay.
when I had a look for my master thesis to how the class organizations were born and why these dependence to public funding versus private funding, I realized that indeed the fact that in France we have this disadvantage of the pool de compétitivité is 100% attached to a government need that today is slowly fading, meaning that the
Mm,
French economy today is pretty strong, and the automotive sector is clearly a backbone of this economy. So
yeah.
that's what. And if we compare typically to other countries, we take I take one of our neighbors, typically Germany. They had the process exactly the opposite. So
Yeah.
their cluster organizations were born because the members had the need. And starting from that point, the members were 100% involved, were 100% funding the activities of the cluster. And that's maybe one of the tricky parts regarding
Yeah.
the French model, is that for sure we have a strong link with our funding regions, with our government,
Hmm.
but we have a risk that, and that's actually getting more and more concrete, and that's where I think all of the 53 people are trying to get back on track, is that we have always been able to propose a lot of services, a lot of support to our members, let's say mentioned for free, when it was absolutely not free. It was funded. It was publicly funded. And today, as the public funding go down, we clearly have to review our model without being too heavy on our members, because
Hmm.
as we are undergoing this change, they are
Yeah.
also undergoing the same. So that's where we are clearly walking just like at the circus online to find the perfect balance.
Yeah.
But today, to be pretty concrete with our regions, as you say, it's clearly an advantage. On our side, we have the luck, as said, to have two very complementary regions, two also clearly very different administration with whom we have to work. But
Hmm.
this collaboration is very clear. It's stated in a collaboration. It's more a roadmap document. So on it depends on the region, but typically on a 2-3 years basis. And on our side, it provides us a very good basis to start our work. And for sure, when we take this roadmap, we then enrich it with the feedback of our members. And that's
Hmm.
where I believe we have um, a very good link, a very good collaboration with our two regions, is that they know that we are the entity which is the more close to the ecosystem, which is constantly with our members. In this period, we have this strategy, this action plan, which is called the member-centric strategy, because we know that if we don't spend 99% of our time with our members, and it's a lot. I mean, we know that we have a lot also of how should I say, of back office work that
Yeah.
needs to be done.
We do.
uh, so I mean, there's clearly a lot of time that we should spend more in the office, behind the computer, etc., etc. But we try to bring these at a minimum level, or at least, let's say, to balance it out between the people in the team, so that we
Hmm.
have for sure some people of the team constantly on the road, constantly talking with the members, because they see us as this middle step between
Yeah. Yeah.
us
Intermediate.
and
Yeah.
government, indeed. So have this responsibility. We have this responsibility to also, let's say, to find a balance between the bottom up and the top down
Yeah. Yeah.
format. So for sure, the national government, the regions have their expectations. They have their priorities, also based on their S3 strategies.
Hmm.
But we also have the responsibility to give feedback regarding these
Yeah.
expectations and,
Absolutely.
and these
Absolutely.
needs, to make sure that they correspond to what is on the in the ecosystem.
Is your government part of your board of directors in the cluster?
So the regions themselves and the government, they're not.
Okay.
They are part. So let's say that we have two level of governance. We have a board which is composed of one president, and there should be something like 10 vice presidents. So it's pretty
Okay.
complete. The idea is that all the presidents, all the vice presidents have a specific expertise. So typically on my side, I work a lot with the vice president, who is specialized on European affairs.
Hmm.
So she's someone working for the Renault Group. So clearly a very important entity for us working in France and working in the automotive sector. And she's someone who is very active in the European bodies. So for
Okay,
sure, on our side, it's a huge asset to use because we
very
don't have
important.
to be indeed we don't have to be active ourselves everywhere because our board, our vice presidents are
They're
also
already active.
represented
I
exactly, and
understand.
that's where we gain. I think a lot of insights and a lot of time and money also for sure. So let's say that there are different vice presidents active on various pillars, and we have how would I call it? In French, it would be a conseil d'administration, so it would be
Yeah, I understand that.
an advisory board, maybe
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. And there we have a wider, let's say, participation. We have, if I'm not wrong today, 40 participants in the advisory board, and they get together 4 times a year, more or less. And
Every
there
quarter, more or
we have,
less. Okay.
indeed, and there we have the regions. Indeed, we have the two
Oh, okay,
regions.
okay. Very interesting.
Exactly.
So all
So
vice
let's say that,
presidents are cluster members, I guess, are people
indeed,
from companies,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
And then you have this advisory board, which are the board of directors plus other people.
Exactly, indeed, that's
Very
exactly it.
interesting.
And the difference there is that the board is provides very concrete insights and suggestions to adapt our work.
Hmm.
They also get very concrete in a practical matter regarding the team,
Making
the cost,
decisions, right?
etc. Exactly. That's why it's maybe not that relevant to have typically region representatives in there, but they are for sure present in the advisory board, and that's where also we have a need as a cluster organization to validate all the decisions that have been discussed first in the board, also in the advisory board, and that's
Mm.
where we also have this. Let's say that already the board, even if we're on a basis of 10, 11 participants, we already have these complementarity among the members
Hmm.
because our network is complementary. So we know that we have members going from startups to big groups,
Yeah.
academics, and cities. That's also the kind of members that you will find in our board because we need our strategy to be aligned with the needs of all of these categories and
Yeah.
not only to the needs of one or two of them. So that's
Let me
why.
ask you, because right now, we do not have this advisory board. We have only a board of directors in our case, president, vice presidents, etc. And we are thinking to reorganize, and we are doing kind of a benchmark. So I'm taking the opportunity to ask you, are those vice presidents in the board of directors also presidents or whatever you call or leaders of the different working groups you have in cluster, or they're not related?
They're not strictly related. I mean, today it's most of the leaders of working groups and members of the board, they all know each other, and they now work pretty strictly together. But no, we have decided to have an heterogeneous, leadership of the
Okay.
various groups and boards. So today, also because we have to clearly to also mention is the participation as a president or vice president to our cluster organization is it's taking quite some time. As I was saying, they also have an active role, and that's for sure something that is a big advantage for ours. Is that the vice president, I mean, the members of the board in general, they know that, first of all, just by being a member of a cluster organization, you get in it not to receive services and support just like we were a consulting company or
Yeah,
whatever.
of course.
It's that they for sure get this support, they get the services, but they also provide something on their side.
Some
It's a
time
win
to the
and win.
organization. Right,
Exactly.
right.
It's a win and win situation. So, for sure, our board members are very active. They really represent the cluster. They provide a lot of information. And that's
Hmm.
why we have decided for the working groups to have different, let's say, pilots. So,
Okay.
today we have four working groups. And the pilots, let's say, are more R&D. All of the cases are more R&D related, simply because the working groups topics are really in a R&D sphere.
Hmm.
Um, and that's where we try to also have a complete representation, a complete participation in all of our bodies, let's say. We also have special, let's say, kind of working group, which is what we call a Europe club. So the idea is that for sure in the working groups, in the thematic working groups that we have, the discussions go from regional to national to European level. That goes without saying. But we also realize that we need to have some kind of meeting point where all of the Europe experts, all of the
Hmm.
European players responsible get together and work on having a coherent French position, because that's
That's very
something.
interesting. That's very
uh,
interesting. Hmm.
Honestly, compared, I don't know how you see it for Spain, but for what I've perceived is that on the Spanish side, as just like on German and Italian side, you are pretty good in aligning on the national level to be present and to be strong at the European level. On the French side,
Okay. You know the you
maybe
know that
from
saying
the
that says that
external side.
the grass from the neighbor looks greener, right? And
Exactly.
now it's yeah, it's true that in Spain we get a lot of European projects. That's statistically true, but it's not easy at the same time. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go deep in that, but just mention. Let me mention before that I really like the way you organize your board of directors, and I was yeah. I'm gonna take some notes about that because I like it. And since we are trying to update our way of doing, I think I'm gonna like yeah. I'm gonna take some yeah some of the ideas that you put on the table. It was very interesting because here in Spain, in our case, for instance, the board of directors are not directly related. Neither the people or the companies are directly related to the. We call it the work. In our case, the working groups are called strategic areas. So they are not leaders of any of the strategic areas. We have the leaders from one side, both people and company, and the board of directors from on the other side. But I know some of my colleagues from other classes, other automotive or other sectors, what they do is every vice president has to be leading one of the working groups in the class, meaning I'm the vice president of innovation, vice president of European affairs, vice president of whatever, and that the same person or at least the same company is leading that working group in the cluster at the same time,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
is very interesting as well. But I like the way you do it, especially the advisory board, to have a plus, yeah, group to discuss. I think it's very interesting because at the end of the day, we have every quarter also we have a meal which is called a leadership circle, where we invite CEOs and product directors in some cases, or yeah, manufacturing directors, which is the highest level in our from the company in our region. We invite them
Mhm.
to a lunch, and it's like a 2 hour lunch more or less, and we discuss some of the topics which could be very similar to this plus group, but everyone is invited there from the 100 plus companies we have in the cluster. But normally, because schedules and everything, we used to hang out around 25 to 35 people on that lunch, which is a quite similar number that you are managing. So it's
Yeah.
quite interesting. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, the difference maybe is just that at the advisory, sorry, at the advisory board meetings, we always have a very long or at least consistent presentation of the ongoing
Topics and
actions
things.
and
Yeah,
status. Exactly. And that's because as an association, we need to validate all the actions, all the
absolutely,
decisions
absolutely.
for the financial side and for the more
Yeah,
roadmap and
operational.
concrete
Yeah,
action.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's where we also get to see
Hmm.
the impact of these meetings is that clearly, I mean, till now, luckily, we have we have been pretty coherent because
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
not get
yeah,
any bad feedback. But for sure, you can get suggestions, you can get also inputs,
yeah.
and the idea is that the members of the advisory board and the board of directors too, they're also ambassadors of the cluster, and they
Okay,
need
okay.
to know. I mean, ambassadors, they don't get
Yeah.
an official status, but they know that they have this role because the idea is that if they want the cluster and the network to be as impactful as possible, they also need to be able to get all the all the members in the network to also get benefits,
Yeah, I
and
understand.
that's where we also want to inform them as much as possible, because when someone will ask about what is next move and what are they doing, for sure we
Hmm.
can explain and we can do it very good, but the best ambassador is the one who gets the
Hmm.
benefit and who has a concrete story, a concrete success story potentially to
Hmm.
explain, and they
Yeah,
say
yeah,
why we
yeah.
supported them in the right way.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting because it's not easy to keep everything updated. And for me, for instance, of course, I have a board of directors every month, and it's a place where you can, of course, explain what you're doing, how you're doing. You make decisions there. You get some priorities and approve some budgets and everything. But at the same time, this plus group that we call a leadership circle, it's very important because I put there's like three main things that happens in this quarterly meeting, quarterly lunch that we have. It's first, I love to discuss some news, European news, national news, whatever, worldwide news, because this is something that is happening, and some of them are more official, the other ones are more like yeah, rumorology, something like that. But it's very important to get insights from the other people. Okay, I heard the same, or not, or I think that, and I think that's very important. So I love to discuss some of the hot news and official and of unofficial. At the same time, we take advantage of this meeting to present some of the activities that we are working, that we just work recently, and at the same time we're going to be working for the next few months, just to get some feedback. If those topics that we define, these projects that we start few weeks or month ago, are still on the top 3, 5, 10, whatever, for our companies. That's very important because I mean we're doing that for them, right? And
Absolutely.
third, and for me, as a cluster manager, I would say most important, I love to ask them that what's happening right now in your company, what's your biggest problem right now, what's your biggest challenge for the next, I don't know, half a year or quarter or next year even. And because those are the things that we have to be start working on for the next few months. So this third topic is very important for me to try to understand what's happening for them, where the problems is, a logistics problem, is a Chinese problem, are regulatory problems, are financing problems, because all of them yeah, it gives us the headlines on what we should be working for the next few whatever weeks or month or year. More than a
Yeah,
year right now, it's quite crazy to try to
exactly.
anticipate anything, right? But yeah,
Exactly.
that
No,
they're very
100%.
important. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
100%. And that's why, for me, the complementarity also among the kind of members who are present is extremely important. And today, as you said, on our side, we have these roles for the various presidents and vice presidents. But
Mhm.
in terms of thematics, in terms of concrete topics, we decided not to create a link simply because we also know that we need to keep some kind of flexibility. So for
Mm,
years we have had four working groups, thematic working groups. Just to mention two, we have one on the more electrification topic, one more on the smart mobility topic. The fact
mhm.
is that uh, even if the general topic clearly won't disappear tomorrow, the subjects for sure will evolve, and
Yeah,
especially in this moment, our cluster president, he always employs this expression. He always says we are in a now or never situation. It's now or it won't be tomorrow, and
yeah,
that's why we know that we need to keep this flexibility to adapt these thematic working groups. If tomorrow or next month or next year one of them won't be relevant anymore,
yeah.
or
It makes
the
any sense
perimeter,
anymore? Yeah, yeah.
exactly, or the perimeter will evolve, uh, clearly we need to have the flexibility to adapt it without making major changes or going to the roots to completely adopt the members, etc. We need to get this flexibility, and that's where on one side we clearly need to have this flexibility and division between the thematic thematic working groups and the board. And also we need to uh, give as much responsibility as possible to the pilots of the working groups, because they are the one who are the most concerned, and as you say, who have the most information, even if
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
as you were mentioning, a beginning of new trend, a beginning of new topic, but they are so much involved in the operational side, in the thematic side, that they are the best ones to tell us, okay, stop, we really need to review this topic, this pillar, etc. And on our side, we need to keep the flexibility to adapt. Today, for
Hmm.
example, one of the topics, I mean, we still didn't implement it 100%, but we're really going fast on that level, is that, as I mentioned, we are active on the automotive and mobility perimeter. Now, for sure, there are
Hmm.
topics and there are elements which go beyond our sector and which can be also create links to other sector, to other topics. And today, something that we know it's a certainty, it wasn't for sure 10 years ago, but it is today, is that the automotive mobility market is becoming smaller and smaller. And we know that the 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 expertise that most of our members have is for sure replicable and usable in other markets.
In other
And
markets, absolutely.
indeed, and something that we are really now focusing on is the fact of supporting this diversification, because
Mm,
even though we are indeed born as an automotive and mobility cluster, and we are a sectoral cluster, our ambition is to support our members to grow and
yeah.
not to get limited to what exists and to what we know. If this means that we need to go beyond to collaborate, I mean, collaborating with other clusters, with other sectors is something that we have already done. But if we need to integrate new members in the
Hmm.
team or develop new skills, that's something that we are doing and we're ready to do, because as we know that today diversification is not a choice anymore.
Yeah.
The new entities, I mean, typically startups, do it from the beginning. So they approach
It's a
different
must.
markets.
Absolutely.
Indeed, they approach different markets from the moment they're born. And it was clearly not the case, as I was saying, even 10 years ago or more. And that's why we need to support and to guide, let's say, some of our members to identify what are the other paths
Hmm.
beyond the purely automotive one, and how can you adapt what you're doing and what you're proposing to develop even beyond. And that's where, as you also were saying, typically you were saying that you create links and bridges with other cluster organization in
Hmm.
France, and I suppose also in France, sorry, in Spain, and also beyond.
Yeah,
That's for sure something that today it's not a choice anymore. We were doing also before, because for sure we have topics that we have in common with cluster organization in digital sector, in
yeah,
deep tech, in a lot of topics. But today we really need to push even beyond, and be able to be
absolutely.
reactive there where there's a need, and there where there's a door that can be opened. If there's a door which can be opened, the goal is to open it and not to
Go for
wonder
it. Absolutely.
whether the door will be good or not. We will think about it later.
That's a big challenge that we have today because, as you mentioned, I think that the lines that used to define, okay, this is this sector, this is these are the sector, they are quite interlined. So especially in the mobility industry, right? We are not only manufacturing some heavy metal component or plastic component for a vehicle, but there's also the connection, the cameras, the sensors, the connectivity, that everything. So it's getting more and more global in the market point of view. And one of the discussions we had many times in our cluster is, okay, should we go for that? Right now, for instance, with the dual technology, right? Security and defense and everything, should we go for that? Or is part of our work as a cluster? I 100 agree with you. I mean, we have to support our industry wherever it goes, the same way that we support them to go to other geographical markets, right? To go to China,
Yeah.
go to Mexico, States, Canada, or Morocco, whatever. At the same time, we also need to diversify and this point of view. But at the same time, I think as a cluster, I'm talking right now as a cluster, we need to be enough flexible, not only internally to adapt to the different topics and things that happen along the year, but at the same time on the collaboration point of view, right? Because we need to
Absolutely.
to work among us with the same level of collaboration that we ask, we suggest, or we require to our cluster members, right? We ask them to collaborate among them, and I think us as a cluster, we need to collaborate as well if we really want to succeed on these yeah, let's say transformation that Europe is having those days. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something, I mean, I think that's something that we have already starting doing without even realizing it, let's say like this. And at a certain point, we have say validated the path, meaning that
Yeah.
I know that we have started, for example, there's one European project where we've been involved. I think it started back in 2023, so the reflection regarding diversification is started concretely and
Hmm.
officially this year in the cluster. Then when I look at what we were done, we already were on these European projects, a very wide one, because we had I mean the project is ending this month. It was a European project funded on the CHIPS JU, let's say, call for project, and
Hmm.
the topic was to help improve electronics components and systems, notably semiconductors, to become more reliable and to have a longer lifetime. And when we look at the application sectors that were
Hmm.
identified in this project, we had for sure automotive, but we also had aviation, we had industry, and the idea is that for sure working on could be a European project, so could be a more national, whatever specific project initiative overall, doesn't mean to limit itself on a specific sector. And actually we already do it. We do it on this. We do it typically on. I think
Absolutely.
you also have the case, but on circular economy, just a very growing topic and a topic which concerns so many sectors. Again, we have the luck to have a European project which started last year on circular economy. And when you look at the of the partners of the project and the sectors which are covered,
Hmm.
automotive is just one of the maybe
Yeah.
five
Yeah.
which are targeted, because the idea is that we cannot just limit to one level and to one perimeter. We can go beyond, and for sure we have today already members who are active maybe on two to three of these five sectors. Well, if
Absolutely.
with one European project we can support them in two or three of them, well, let's just go.
That's very interesting. I think this is something that's going to be we're going to have major changes. I think the cluster concept it's really working here in Europe and many other countries. I supported other clusters in Latin America and Canada and other places. Canada, I think, is quite nice as well on clusters as well in Europe. But I think it's something that it's growing, and especially in this periods of time with many changes, that everything is changing quicker and quicker, right? I think we play a very important role to support our companies. I would say that it's yeah, I would say that. Okay, Julia, listen, it was very nice talking to you. It was very interesting, and I learned a few things. I already mentioned I'm gonna probably taking into consideration some of the things that you are doing right now because they really inspired me. And let's keep talking on that, and maybe in a year something like that we can have another call and another podcast and see how all these topics evolve. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It was really, really kind and very interesting from my side too.
Okay, take care. See you soon.
You
And
too.
bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.